The Dodgers didn't just win a World Series. They repeated. Back-to-back champions, something baseball hasn't seen in 25 years. And the way they did it felt different, because this didn't look like a lucky run. This looked like the moment a dynasty officially declared itself to the world. So the real question isn't how they won Game 7. It's this: did we just witness the birth of baseball's next unstoppable empire? Game 7 wasn't calm. It was chaos, the kind of chaos that decides legacies. A 5-4 extra innings war where every pitch felt like a season collapsing or a future being born. Toronto had the crowd. They had the momentum. They had the stadium shaking like a pressure cooker about to burst. But then Miguel Rojas stepped in and everything changed. Bottom of the ninth, 1 out, full count. And he reaches out on a 3-2 slider most players would have just flicked foul. Instead, he delivers a no-doubt shot into the bullpen, a home run that didn't just tie the game. It ripped the heartbeat out of an entire fan base. That swing didn't just level the score, it stole Toronto's night inside their own building. The Blue Jays were 1 out away from rewriting history. Rojas snatched it right out of their hands. And that was only the beginning, because one more swing would flip this night into pure madness. Most people don't walk into Game 7 expecting the catcher to be the headline. But in the 11th inning, Will Smith became the entire plot twist. First pitch, boom, a solo blast to left. Just like that, the Dodgers had their first lead of the entire night, in the biggest moment of the biggest game. The guy behind the plate swung like he'd been waiting his whole life for that exact pitch. Catchers don't usually get the spotlight in a World Series clincher. It usually belongs to the power bats, or the ace arms, or the superstar names that sell jerseys worldwide. But this time, it was the catcher who delivered the coldest swing of October. He didn't scream. He didn't flip the bat. He just ran the bases like a man who already knew the season was over. But even that wasn't the final chapter, because the real story of Game 7 wasn't written by a bat. It was written by an arm. This is where the legend part kicks in. Because Yoshinobu Yamamoto didn't pitch like a human being. He pitched like a myth being created in real time. He threw 96 pitches in Game 6. And then came right back the very next night and shut Toronto down again in Game 7 to point to innings. Scoreless, no fear. No panic, only precision. That workload alone was insane, and then the results pushed it into history. He became only the 4th pitcher ever to win Game 6 and Game 7 of the same World Series, entering the same sentence as Randy Johnson in 2001. That's not just performance, that's legacy writing stuff. He got out of a bases-loaded jam in the 9th. He handled the 10th like it was nothing. And even when Vlad Jr. smoked a leadoff double in the 11th, Yamamoto didn't blink. He just attacked, and he locked it down. That's why he walked away with the World Series MVP, and honestly, nobody could argue it. He didn't just earn it, he took it. But this night wasn't only about new greatness emerging. Something else was quietly ending in the background behind all the fireworks. There was a goodbye happening. Clayton Kershaw, the face of the franchise for over a decade, is done. This season was his final ride, his farewell. And even though he barely pitched in October, his one major moment mattered. Because in that 18-inning marathon back in Game 3, when Toronto loaded the bases and looked ready to bury the Dodgers, it was Kershaw who put the fire out. He didn't go out as a passenger. He went out as a contributor, a champion for the 3rd time. And what makes it even more poetic is this: he never left. He never chased money. He never jumped to his hometown Rangers when rumors insisted he might. He stayed loyal, one-team Hall of Famer in an era where loyalty is almost extinct. He arrived when the Dodgers were struggling to escape mediocrity. He leaves with the Dodgers sitting on top of the sport like a skyscraper. But the wild part is, the moment Kershaw faded, the Dodgers didn't weaken, they actually evolved into something even stronger. This isn't a hot streak. This isn't a lucky window. This is domination, sustained and engineered. 3 championships in 6 years. 12 division titles in 13 seasons. And while all of that was happening at the major league level, their farm system stayed elite too. Top 10 every single year. Number 1 in baseball more than once. No other franchise balances win now and future loaded like this. And the core isn't going anywhere. Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Yamamoto anchoring the next era. These aren't short-term contracts. These are pillars locked in for years, holding up a championship machine that might last longer than the sport is prepared for. Some insiders already say this could become the Yankees-type dynasty of our generation. The modern version of Ruth to DiMaggio to Mantle. But with Ohtani to Betts to Freeman as the chain of eras. But for every dynasty, there's always heartbreak sitting on the other dugout. Because while LA was writing legacy, Toronto was living through pain that felt personal. Sports can be cruel. And nobody felt that cruelty harder than Toronto. While the Dodgers were building their empire, Ernie Clement was quietly making history on the other side. 30 hits in 1 postseason. A brand new MLB record. The most ever in October. And the wildest part? He almost turned Game 7 into a Blue Jays fairy tale. Bottom of the 9th. Bases loaded. Clement gets a pitch he can drive, and he hammers it. For a split second, the entire stadium thought the season was over. That ball was that close to leaving the yard. But it died at the warning track. 5 more feet of carry, and everything we're seeing right now would be the reverse. That's how thin the line was. That's how close Toronto came to flipping history upside down. Which leads to the question we're left staring at now. What does this moment actually mean going forward? Vegas didn't wait. Before the champagne even dried, the 2026 odds dropped. And the Dodgers were already listed as favorites again. Not contenders, favorites, because this run doesn't feel temporary. It feels structural. It feels engineered. It feels like the type of empire the Yankees used to build in the 1950s, where one generation hands the winning formula to the next, and the machine just keeps rolling. So now the real conversation isn't about Game 7 anymore. It's about the timeline of LAS dominance. How long does this rule last? 5 years? 10 years longer? Tell me in the comments, do you think we're watching a dynasty that's just starting? Or one that's already halfway through its reign?